The greatest danger is not that we aim too high and miss, but that we aim too low and hit. Some philosophers probably never said that about dating apps in Southeast Asia, but here we are. I matched with her on a Tuesday. By Thursday, she was calling me baby. By the following Monday, I was booking a flight to Pattaya. 3 weeks later, I was standing in a grocery store in Big C on Pattaya Klang, loading my cart with enough food to feed a family of 8, wondering how the hell I'd become the primary sponsor of someone else's life story. This isn't another Thai women are scammers rant. This is about something more dangerous than scams. This is about how we scam ourselves, one romantic fantasy at a time. You know what's crazy? I actually prided myself on being smart about online dating. Back home in Seattle, I'd been through the dating app gauntlet for years. I knew the red flags, the catfish signs, the games. I thought I was bulletproof. But here's what I didn't account for. Being smart about dating white women in America doesn't mean shit when you're texting with someone who lives in a completely different economic reality, speaks English as a second language, and has been raised in a culture that treats relationships like extended family business ventures. Her name was Michaela, and her photos were stunning but not Instagram perfect. She was a nursing student, worked part-time at a call center, lived with her parents and 2 younger siblings. Everything about her profile screamed genuine in a way that made my Seattle-trained scam detector completely silent. Our first video call lasted 4 hours. She was funny, intelligent, asked me thoughtful questions about my work as a software engineer. She didn't seem impressed by my income. If anything, she seemed almost embarrassed when I mentioned it. "Money isn't everything," she said, looking away from the camera. "I just want someone who's real." And that's when I knew I was fucked. The thing about falling for someone 8,000 miles away is that everything happens in your head first. You fill in the blanks with your own hopes, your own projections, your own desperate need for something different than what you've been getting. Michaela and I talked every day for 3 weeks before I bought that plane ticket. She'd message me during her lunch breaks, send me photos of her commute, share stories about her nursing classes. It felt intimate, personal, real. But here's what I didn't notice. She never asked me for anything. Not money, not gifts, not even for me to visit. She was the perfect girlfriend, supportive, interested, available, without any of the complications that come with actual physical presence. The red flag I should have caught? She was too good to be true. Not because she was fake, but because our entire relationship existed in a fantasy bubble where real-world problems couldn't touch us yet. When I told her I was booking a flight to Pattaya, she seemed genuinely shocked. "Are you sure?" she asked during our video call. "It's so expensive, and I don't want you to waste your money." Even her reluctance felt perfect. Who wouldn't want a girlfriend who cared about your finances? Pattaya hit me like a wall of heat, humidity, and sensory overload. The traffic, the noise, the smells. Everything was more intense. The first week was everything I dreamed about. She took time off work to show me around. We ate at local places, visited historical sites, spent hours talking in coffee shops. But then the little things started happening. It was subtle at first. She'd mention almost in passing that her mom was stressed about the electric bill, or that her brother needed money for school supplies, or that she was worried about making rent next month because she'd taken unpaid time off to spend with me. She never asked for anything directly. She just shared, the way someone might share their worries with a partner, the way someone might hint at problems without demanding solutions. And because I was her boyfriend, because I cared about her, because I had the means to help, I offered. "Don't worry about the electric bill," I said one evening as we sat on her family's couch. "I'll take care of it." The relief on her face was genuine. The gratitude was real. The kiss she gave me felt like the most natural thing in the world. That night, I didn't feel like I was being taken advantage of. I felt like I was being a good boyfriend. Here's something they don't tell you about being the foreign boyfriend in the Thailand kingdom. You don't just date the girl. You date her entire extended family, her economic situation, her cultural expectations, and her survival strategy. Was warm, welcoming, and genuinely seemed to like me. Her parents treated me with respect. Her siblings included me in their jokes and conversations. When we all sat down for dinner, I felt like I belonged. But I also felt like Santa Claus. Every meal came with stories about family expenses. Every conversation somehow circled back to financial stress. Not in an obvious way, nobody was asking me for money directly, but the needs were always there, hanging in the air like Pattaya's humidity. Her mom mentioned that the roof needed repair before the rainy season. Her dad talked about wanting to expand their small business but lacking capital. Her brother showed me his worn-out school shoes with the sole that flapped when he walked. And Michaela would sit there, translating when they spoke in Tagalog, looking embarrassed but not stopping the conversation. "They're not asking you for anything," she'd say later when we were alone. "They're just sharing. The families are very open about these things." She was right. They weren't asking. They were just painting a picture of need and waiting to see if I'd volunteer to help color it in. The transformation was so gradual, I didn't notice it happening. It started with me picking up every restaurant tab, which felt normal, even generous. Then it was paying for her Grab rides so she could get to work safely. Then it was covering her phone bill so we could stay in touch when I went back to Seattle. Each expense made sense individually. Each payment felt like something a caring boyfriend would do, but together, they formed a pattern I was too emotionally invested to see clearly. When I flew back to Seattle after that first 3-week visit, I left behind more than just memories. I left behind a monthly commitment to someone else's life that I'd never explicitly agreed to. The requests started small and infrequent. Michaela would message me about unexpected expenses, a medical bill for her grandmother, a school fee for her brother, a work uniform she needed to buy. She'd preface each request with apologies, explanations, and promises to pay me back. "I hate asking you for this," she'd write, "but I don't have anyone else to turn to." And because I loved her, because I could afford it, because I wanted to be the kind of man who took care of his girlfriend, I always said yes. But here's what I didn't realize. Every time I said yes, I was training both of us. I was training her to see me as a solution to her problems, and I was training myself to see her problems as my responsibility. The wake-up call came during my second visit to Pattaya, about 6 months after we'd started dating. I was sitting in that grocery store, loading my cart with enough food to feed her entire family for a week, when I overheard Michaela talking to her cousin in Tagalog. I didn't speak the language, but I caught enough words to get the gist. She was talking about me, about how generous I was, about how I always helped with expenses, and then she said something that made her cousin laugh, something about Kano and eight. Now, I'm not fluent in Tagalog, but I know Kano means foreigner, and I know what ATM means in any language. When I asked her about it later, she looked genuinely confused. "I wasn't making fun of you," she said. "I was just telling her how grateful I am for your help. In Thai culture, we joke about these things. It doesn't mean anything bad." And you know what? I believed her, because the alternative, that I'd been slowly transformed from boyfriend to walking bank account, was too painful to accept. But the seed of doubt was planted. Once you start seeing it, you can't unsee it. The way conversations always seemed to circle back to money. The way family emergencies coincided with my payday. The way her affection levels correlated directly with my financial generosity. It wasn't manipulation in the obvious sense. Michaela never threatened to break up with me if I didn't pay for something. She never gave me ultimatums or played games. She was always sweet, always grateful, always apologetic about needing help. But she also never said no to my offers. She never insisted on paying her own way. She never suggested that maybe I was helping too much, too often. The relationship had become a subscription service I'd signed up for without reading the fine print. The end came not with a dramatic fight or a discovered lie, but with a simple question I asked myself one night while transferring money for what felt like the 100th time. What would happen if I stuffed? The question terrified me because I already knew the answer. Not because Michaela was a gold digger or a scammer, but because our entire relationship had been built on an economic foundation that I'd laid one transaction at a time. She'd never promised to love me regardless of my financial support. I'd never asked her to. We'd just fallen into a pattern where love and money had become so intertwined that separating them felt impossible. I started testing the waters, small things at first, suggesting she pay for her own coffee, mentioning that I was trying to save money, being less immediately responsive to requests for help. The change was subtle but noticeable. She was still sweet, still loving, but there was a new undercurrent of tension. Questions about my job, my finances, my future plans. Worry about whether I was losing interest in her. And I realized she was as trapped in this pattern as I was. She'd come to depend on my support, not because she was using me, but because I'd made myself indispensable to her survival. Here's what I learned about love in the Thailand, and probably anywhere else where economic inequality meets romantic opportunity. It's not that the women are scammers, it's that the system is designed to blur the lines between love and financial support in ways that would never happen in relationships between economic equals. Michaela wasn't a bad person. She wasn't even dishonest. She was a young woman from a struggling family who met a foreign man with money who was eager to help. She responded to that opportunity the way anyone might, with gratitude, affection, and a growing sense of security. The problem wasn't her character. The problem was that I'd confused being needed with being loved. We didn't break up dramatically. We just faded. The requests for help became more frequent and larger. My responses became more delayed and smaller. The video calls became shorter and less frequent. The I love you messages became rarer and more perfunctory. Eventually, we stopped pretending. She found someone else, another foreigner, another potential provider. I found myself back on dating apps, but this time with a very different perspective. I don't blame Michaela for how things ended. I don't even regret the money I spent. What I regret is that I never gave our relationship a chance to be based on anything other than my ability to solve her problems. The truth about dating in the Thailand, or anywhere else with significant economic disparities, is that love becomes complicated when survival is at stake. It's not that the feelings aren't real, they can be. It's that they're mixed with so many other factors that it becomes impossible to know what's genuine and what's strategic. The women aren't villains, the men aren't victims. Everyone's just trying to get their needs met in a world where those needs are very different depending on where you were born and how much money you have. But here's what I wish someone had told me before I got on that plane to Pattaya. If you want to find real love, you need to create conditions where love is the only thing on the table. If you're thinking about pursuing a relationship with someone from the Thailand, here's what I learned the hard way. Set financial boundaries immediately. Not because you're cheap, but because you want to know if someone likes you or just likes what you can provide. If she's genuinely interested in you as a person, she'll respect those boundaries. Give time, not money. Anyone can write a check. Few people can fake genuine interest, intellectual compatibility, and emotional connection over months of conversation. Let time reveal who she really is when there's no immediate financial benefit to being with you. Watch how she talks about other foreigners. If she's dated other expats before, how does she describe those relationships? If they all ended when the money stopped flowing, that's your preview of coming attractions. Meet her when she's not in crisis. Don't be the knight in shining armor who solves her immediate problems. Be the guy who gets to know her when life is stable. Real love grows in peace, not in panic. Keep your emotional investment proportional to her risk. If you're willing to potentially lose your heart and your savings, she should be willing to potentially lose something too. Maybe it's time, maybe it's other opportunities, maybe it's just the comfort of the familiar, but love should be mutual investment, not one-sided charity. I want to be clear about something. I know guys who found amazing, genuine, lasting love in the Thai real partnerships with women who contribute equally to the relationship, who care more about connection than cash, who would stick around even if the money disappeared. But here's what those successful relationships have in common. They started with clear boundaries, developed over time without financial pressure, and were built on mutual respect rather than mutual need. The guys who succeeded weren't the ones who tried to buy love. They were the ones who insisted on earning it. If you're heading to the Thailand looking for love, or if you're already there, ask yourself this. Would she still be with you if you made the same amount of money she does? If the answer is yes, you might have found something real. If the answer is no, you haven't found love. You've found a very expensive way to feel loved. The difference might seem small, but it's everything. I'm not writing this to scare you away from dating in the Thailand. I'm writing this to help you do it with your eyes wide open. The truth is, you can absolutely find genuine love there, but only if you're willing to give up the fantasy of being the rich foreigner who sweeps in to save the day. Only if you're willing to be just another guy who has to earn someone's affection through his character, his consistency, and his commitment to treating her as an equal. Thailand will offer you every opportunity to be the hero of someone else's story. The question is, do you want to be a hero or do you want to be loved? Because in my experience, you can't be both. The choice is yours. Just make sure you're choosing consciously, not just getting swept up in the fantasy of being needed. Because being needed isn't the same as being loved, and learning that difference might be the most expensive lesson you ever pay for. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and remember, the best relationships are the ones where both people choose to be there, not where one person needs to be there.